You're listening to our Significance podcast. It's the journey to finding significance. Probably 80% of people aren't living a life of significance for a lot of different reasons. Would you agree with that, Jim?
For sure, I think it's a high probability that maybe 20% or less.
Yeah, maybe less even. Yeah. But that does mean that there are, 10 to 20% who are living a life of significance. And I've seen that with people who do a good body of work and they seem to be content in retirement because they did significant things and they feel that.
I think when you have live a good age and you've done what you could, I think you do get to a point you're done. Maybe it's like a slice of pie. Maybe this gentleman at 93 is 90% done, but he's still got a son or a grandson that God has him working on. He's not done, but he's very close. And he is feeling content. And that's your contentment is probably a measurement of how close to being satisfied or done you are.
And then on the other side, there are people who, their first boss is a jerk and their second boss is a jerk and maybe their third boss is a jerk and they just go, I guess that's the way it is. I guess I'm working at a job and I'm grinding it out and they don't have any concept of what a good workplace is. They're there. They put their hours in and they have their talents which are being ignored and they're just saying that's the way it is, and they look at others who seem to have done well and it's sort of like, I don't know, if a sense of bitterness or envy or like, how come they got to do this and I never got my chance? I missed my chance to grab the brass ring, they might say. And that's a lot of people.
Can you imagine, Jeff, when we talk about the three simple steps, clarity, energy, fulfillment, they're in the right order for a reason. How can you ever feel like you're feeling significant if you don't aren't clear on where you're supposed to be going? If you're guessing, what are your odds of quitting? Pretty good. Now, the middle part is pretty important here. Energy, when you start having energy towards something you can see happening and making a better way, that looks way different than quitting energy. And the taste of fulfillment, the tear in the eye, the joy in the heart, that's a pretty big deal when you see it in someone else. I mean, that's you use the word honor. When you see someone do that, you're like, boy, they're living that. That in that moment, that's honor. That's our aim, isn't it? To live a life of honor.
We are born to a place in time. And sometimes that's been kind of messy. Maybe it was a troubled home life. Maybe it was a troubled school, maybe a neighborhood, maybe a bad job. And what happens is that people go, well, I guess this is it. I will tell you this from personal experience. I haven't had a terrible life by any stretch of the imagination. It's been good. But I have been stuck. And then there's been this clarity, a lot of which came through you, Jim, that gave me enough energy and enough hope to turn to a direction and just start walking. And the more I walked in that direction, the more clarity I had, and then the more energy I had, and the pace has picked up over time. And now I feel like I'm trotting toward this place that I can see. And as I head down this road, I can just see clearly that place called fulfillment. I'm already getting people who are saying, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're going the right place. I appreciate what you're doing. And the more I get that, the more I realize that I am going in the right direction. When you look at your own life, do you see similar things?
Oh, for sure. And boy, there were some times where I was ready to quit, right? Throw in the towel. This is it, the Rocky thing, throw in the towel, throw in the towel. But then it seemed like God always put someone in my court or something in front of me that says, hang on a minute, get your head up.
Hmm.
That's that connection thing, right? And then you get your feet back on the ground, you get rest a little bit, and you're like, and again, it takes a different view, a different lens of clarity. And all of a sudden you start aiming for something that's different and achievable. And then even if you only get a good year, don't you want to make it a really good year?
A story from my youth. The book is To Kill a Mockingbird. Great book. The hero is called Atticus Finch, and the boy has to go next door to help this crabby lady next door. He has to read her a book, and she has some sort of disease, very painful, and she's become a heroin addict. So she uses this kid reading a story to focus on his words to help her through the pain of cutting heroin out of her life. And she does. And then she dies. And Atticus Finch said, well, she's the bravest woman I ever knew. She died free. And I love that story because it's never over. The thing about quitting is not a permanent thing. It's like a daily thing. And someday you can say, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to quit today. Today I'm going to get up and give it my best. I know I quit yesterday, but I don't have to quit today. I know the diet didn't work last time, but this time it's going to work. I know I quit whatever this bad habit is, but this time I got this strategy. I got somebody else helping me. I'm doing it for another person. This time it's going to happen. And I just have to say, eventually it will happen and you will achieve victory. As we said in past podcasts, you either do it for somebody or with somebody. And, the secret, this absolute magical change agent is the Holy Spirit, who through Christ and our heavenly God just gives you that ability to get up, take one more swing. It's never going to be easy, but you can do it. And it doesn't matter when. If you have 2 weeks left to live, let's start right now, right?
Going back to clarity of spiritual gifts, if you have the gifts to encourage, then encourage. If you have the gift of mercy to feel for someone, then feel for someone. If you have the gift of vision, create a vision, but don't waste it.
Denzel Washington will talk about being a 20-year-old kid working in his mom's beauty salon, 20 years old. And then this older lady calls him over and says, you will encourage millions of people. I have seen it in you. And then he got into acting and he credits her vision giving him that boost. I don't know this lady's name, but it doesn't matter. If you do what God calls you to do, who even knows what will happen in eternity if you don't quit on yourself?
If you're listening to significance, I want to remind you that you're not quitting because you're looking,
Hmm.
right? You're listening, you're gleaning, you're taking something, you're trying, you're not quitting. Maybe you haven't quite got the perfect vision, but there's a reason you're sitting here listening is that
Otherwise, you'd be watching cat videos or sports betting shows, right? The
yeah.
fact that you're drawn to this, well, this is a great sign. Good for you. So, our significance master class is where we draw a lot of our materials for this program from. If you have any questions, a specific question about where you're at in life, we'd be happy to help you. Just reach out to us. Until we talk, I'm Jeff Gould.
And I'm Jim Riefenberger.
God bless.